Hi, class. So we're going to continue talking about citations. Citations in a speech can be really, really helpful at helping you establish credibility. That's a great way for you to borrow the credibility of some research and also to show your audience that you are credible to speak on your topic. So we're going to talk about two different circumstances for citations. The first one is written citations. These are going to be helpful in outlines as well as your works cited page. So if you're creating an outline, which was the assignment from last week, and you needed to input some research. And of course, anytime that you have to do outside research, you should be creating a citation. You should be telling your audience where that information comes from, because if you didn't know it, then your audience shouldn't be expected to know it. So they need to know where you got it from. So the first way that you can do it is you can list out in the outline, according to, say, the American Health Association, they recommend that every adult gets 3 to 5 servings of vegetables and fruits a day. You can put that out, just write it out. You can also do it as a parenthetical. You could put adults should eat 3 to 5 fruits and veggies a day, parentheses, American Heart Association. And you can do either one. But that's a way for us to see, if we're looking at your outline, where did you get this particular information? I also want to talk about the end of your outline, which is the works cited page, which I've got right here. I've already done it, but I'll delete it and we'll do it again together. So a works cited page or a bibliography is a great place for you to include all of your information, and it's just a master list. So if anybody wanted to go out and find your research, they could do so. These pages are generally very formalized and they're stylized, most of the time either through MLA or APA. I don't really care which one you use for this course, but if you're already using one for another course, feel free to keep it the same. So the first thing, let's actually go into Google and let's just look at MLA. Let's see what comes up. And so the second hit right here is something called the Purdue OWL. And Purdue OWL is a great website because it really does give us some really good, helpful information about how to do it. You can see it's got some different citations that you can use there. That citation machine. We'll talk about another one that I'm going to use in a second. But it gives you all the different things that you might need when determining your citation. But all of these styles, MLA, APA, Chicago, Turabian might be one, they have a specific way that you're going to put your source, down to the indentation and the the order of the information. So author, title, publication date, whatever, whether it's indented or not, whether it's italicized or not. You can kind of see all these different ones right here. So Purdue OWL is a great source. If you have an English class, this could be a great place for you to go. There really are a lot of helpful resources if this is a struggle area for you. But I think it's always helpful just to use a shortcut. And there are a lot of shortcuts out there. My biggest piece of advice is twofold. One, make sure it's free. Don't pay for something you don't need to. And two, make sure you're verifying it. So one of the ones that I enjoy is this one called BibMe. And this is a great source. I haven't seen that it's needed to pay. I've seen that it's free. So I think it's great. It's got some other great tools in place. You can create an account, but you don't have to, I don't believe. So let's say that I was going to make a citation. So I was researching this morning about the China spy balloon in the United States. NPR is a great source for me to get most of my news. I feel like it's fairly balanced. So what I'm going to do, if there was information in here that I thought that I needed, I would go and I would take the URL. I would copy it. And I'm going to go over to BibMe. It is a website. And I am going to paste right here. What BibMe is going to do is it's going to search. It's going to try to find it, recreate it, make sure that it's got it. And you can see that one result was found. It is the right website. I'm going to hit cite. And then it's going to tell me what information they were able to pull and then what they're going to need help with. And so it tells you what they could find automatically. And sometimes if it's a more popular, I would say more credible website, this is going to be easier to do. But if it's a lesser known, maybe not as credible, you may have to do a little bit more of this work on your own. But I'm going to hit continue. and it's going to bring up the fill in the blank. So if something was wrong, maybe they misspelled the author's name for some reason, or that wasn't the correct headline, I could correct it. The one thing it didn't know was the publication. Usually for news articles, it's the website and the publisher are going to be the same. And I can do a couple of different things. This all looks right though, so I'm going to hit complete citation. And then it's loading it right here. So here's my citation, and I am going to copy that. And notice it gives me a couple other options. I don't need to, but it says that it was copied, so I'm good. And I'm going to come over to my Word cited page, and I'm going to paste it. And you can see that it put it all in there. So a couple of things. First of all, this isn't totally correct. All citations need to be double spaced. So it does need to look like that. And it did it automatically for mine. It won't always. The first line is left justified, but then every other line has to have a hanging indentation. So you've got to work with your guidelines up here, but hopefully that will look right. And you've got it all there. You would need to make sure it's all correct. If you have a second source, you're going to order this alphabetically. So Murphy, if it was the author, that would go above this. If it's Smith, it would go after. So it's not in the order that you use it. It's going to be alphabetical order. So that is the first thing that we're going to talk about today. The second type of source after a written source, and I think is super helpful for speeches, is using an in-text citation, an oral source citation. It's really the better way to think of it. And so a lot of people have learned different things. Sometimes they learn all I have to do is give all my sources at the end. Some people say, well, I've got a PowerPoint, it's got the sources on it, I don't have to say anything. I think this is not true. I think in the name of trying to increase your credibility, we should be maximizing the amount of citations that we have. Every single time that I give an oral source citation, it's telling my audience that I have done something that they don't have to do. I have gone out, done this research, and I'm going to provide that information for you. So what's helpful for us is to try to make sure that we are giving them an oral citation that helps us get this credibility, but is easy to digest. So take a look at this reference right here. This was the one that I just copied. I could start mentioning any part of this. I could start mentioning Rasco, Fang. I could list the headline. I could list the date. I could list the URL. But none of that, in my opinion, is super helpful. What I want to know in general from an oral source citation is the publication and the date. The publication, because that's probably going to be well known enough. People have at least heard of NPR, the New York Times, Washington Post, American Health Association. These are at least somewhat recognizable, so they at least seem credible. But then I'm also going to include the date. So when I say, according to an NPR article from February 5th of 2023, and then here's my information, that lets my audience know I got it from NPR. It's a recent article, and so that seems credible. I do want to make sure that my oral source citation comes before I present the information. So I wouldn't want to give it and then be like, oh, by the way, sorry about that. By the way, this is from NPR. But instead, I want to give my citation so that my audience can process it. I could say, according to Rasco and Fang, but if I said that, I don't think you would know who Rasco and Fang were. I don't know if that would help. I could give you the headline of the article, and if it is a really cleverly worded headline, it might add some whimsy to my speech. I'm certainly not going to start listing off the exact URL because one, that's going to be really clunky in a speech, and two, my audience is going to stop listening. So I think at a bare minimum, I want the publication and the date. Now, if the author is someone who is recognizable, let's say that I was doing a speech about education and I found an article that was written by Dr. Jill Biden, that would be an appropriate thing to include because she's recognizable. And if it's about education, she has a doctorate in education. So it would be helpful to use that. But if it's a more random journalist who's a little more obscure, it's not as helpful. But it certainly, if it were helpful to establish my credibility, I could use it. Same thing, if the headline is worded nicely, maybe it's a pun or it's playful, something that my audience would remember, the headline could be useful. But otherwise, all I need is NPR and the date. You can say it a couple of different ways. So according to an NPR article from February 5th of this year, you could do a February 5th, 2023 article from NPR Explains. You could say that NPR writes on this date. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could say it, but as long as you have those things, that's what's going to be important. Okay. What is super necessary is you remember that you are citing as you present the information and not at the end of the speech. So I should be able to count up and hear your citations as we go through and not just wait till the very end and be like, oh, by the way, here are all my sources. That's not helpful to your credibility, but presenting it as you go is. So I hope this was helpful. Hopefully this gives you kind of the jump you need to finish this week, and then use these things when we have our next speech. Good luck, everybody.